Hi everyone, welcome. Sorry for the late start. I didn't. I realized I didn't upload the videos. I had three to play for you, but I promise they're worth the wait. All right, what a subject tonight. We are going to talk about Xi Jinping's enemies. We're going to have a list of his enemies identified, and also we'll talk about are they, we'll address the question: are they revolting? So let me first read you a post that I read today that I think described the state of or describes the state of Chinese society today. So it goes like this. It says high-ranking officials feel the impending danger. Middle-ranking officials are living in fear. Grassroots officials are in a state of confusion. The rich Chinese are frustrated. The middle class worry about their money, and the people at the bottom don't know how to make a living. Yet everyone is waiting for something. They all sense that something is coming. They don't know what it is. They cannot talk about it, but they are all waiting. And I thought it's so well written. And what they're waiting for is obviously what Xi Jinping fears the most: the collapse of the regime, with him being overthrown. Because when the regime collapses, he would have to go. Um, so somebody counted the number of high-ranking officials who have followed China's foreign minister Qin Gang, who disappeared in July, or actually June 25th. He counted. He said there are a total of 22 high-ranking officials, and the bulk of them are in the Chinese PLA. That certainly highlights or shows you uh, where Xi Jinping has the most concern, right? He fears a military coup. So tonight we'll talk about who are Xi Jinping's enemies within the CCP, within the Chinese government. I will separate that discussion into three parts. First, we'll talk about Xi Jinping's biggest political opponent within the party. And then we'll talk about the power struggles with his own faction. And then I'll share with you an insider's view or description of what's really happening right now within the PLA. I think that would be most interesting, isn't it? So stay until the end. I told you it's worth the wait. And if you look at my three subtitles or three agenda items, they actually represent the three factional wars that he's fighting. We know that during the first two terms, Xi Jinping mostly fought with the Jiang Zemin faction, or Jiang Zemin / Zheng Qinghong faction. Right, he had this one major political struggle with one faction, and now he has three. So that's actually what the first is with the Jiang Zemin faction. The second is the political struggle within his own faction, and the last one is within the PLA. So that's the three battles that he's fighting. So the first question: who is his biggest political opponent? Well, there is no. It's still the Jiang Zemin faction, and after Jiang's death, it's now Zheng Qinghong. He is now the de facto leader of the entire anti-Xi forces within the CCP, and that's his first and foremost enemy within the party. Now, what makes this person uh, difficult for Xi Jinping uh, to to take down? Right, Xi Jinping has taken down many opponents, but what made Zheng Qinghong particularly difficult to take down is that his mother was the headmaster of a CCP leader's nursery school. So she personally took care of the children of many CCP leaders. So many of these princelings are close to the Zheng family because of that association. They grew up in her nursery school. So that's why Zheng Qinghong is well connected within the CCP. Comparatively speaking, the Xi family isn't that well connected because his father has been, persecuted by both Mao and Deng Xiaoping. So they weren't that popular within the CCP, so they're not like a major dominant force within the CCP. But anyways, the factional fight now has extended overseas, and even foreign press is involved. Someone in the power center of Beijing has leaked information to Nikkei Asia. Its writer Kazuji Nakazawa has written a piece on September 5th about the summer Beidaihe conference. I do have images. Here we go. I shared with you about this piece before. And basically, this piece said that a group of retired CCP elders led by Zheng Qinghong, in an unprecedented move, have challenged Xi Jinping in his face for making such a mess economically, politically, and diplomatically, and thus endangering the rule of the party. This news was widely circulated outside China, but many China experts, China experts who are Chinese, believe it's fake news, or there are more people who question the authenticity of this event than those who believe it. They think that it's news or fake news deliberately fed to a foreign press by Zheng Qinghong's people, because they argue that even though the elders are upset with Xi Jinping, it's hard for them to get organized under Xi Jinping's surveillance. And most people don't bother. I mean, they may express their frustration and anger, through different channels, but it's hard for them to get organized in the way that's described in the piece. So they think it's just Zheng Qinghong's people using foreign press to establish himself as the leader of the opposition force within the CCP. And I kind of share that view because I think the event was too the event that's described in the piece is too orderly. And, think about it. There's a pre-meeting, a consensus was built. They select a few representatives who met with Xi. It feels more like a Western style, Western type of meeting. It's just not in line with how politics are played out in China. So I think obviously people have heard this, suspicion, or people's, people don't really believe that that's actually what happened. But by the way, Nikkei Asia is a partner or is affiliated with Financial Times. So that's just extra piece of information for you. And then I think whoever released that information have heard our criticism. So they follow up with a second piece. So 2 days ago, on September 21st, it came out in another piece, and they gave more information. They said, well, addressing the question that there's no way Xi Jinping would allow that kind of meeting to take place, in the suburb of Beijing, like a secret meeting. So addressing that concern, this second piece said that, well, it was actually a meeting that Xi Jinping approved. And they also offered another piece of detail. They said a retired general, Chi Haotian, who is 94 years old, who was the former vice chairman of the Central Military Commission and former defense minister, also attended the meeting, and he sat next to Zheng Qinghong, but did not speak a word. So that's this piece that came out 2 days ago. Now, Chi Haotian is the key person who commanded the troops that was sent to Tiananmen Square to open fire on the students in 1989. And he's a close ally to Jiang Zemin's faction. So if there's any PLA heavyweight who went to the meeting, it would be him. So people say he will probably be the only PLA heavyweight that Zheng Qinghong can bring to the meeting. That, anyone he could bring, that would be him. However, still, many China experts are not convinced that event happened the way it was described in the piece. They tend to believe that the source of the story is tied to Zheng Qinghong, who want to use foreign press to show how Xi Jinping is severely challenged internally and how Zheng is the effective leader of the opposition. For me, I felt, but people generally agree that some kind of meetings did take place. It's not taken place in the way it was described. And when I read the piece, I felt the language used in this piece, the language used to describe the event has been embellished and doesn't feel authentic. Um, but it's not important if the news is true or not, because either way, we draw the same conclusion. If it is true, then it sends a signal that Xi Jinping is facing resistance from party elders, uh, led by Zheng Qinghong. If the news is fake, it sends an even stronger signal that Xi Jinping's opposition is formidable and they are using foreign press to fight him. So I think the latter is even more threatening to Xi Jinping. So at this point, it doesn't matter if it really happens or not, but it just shows that he's facing some serious political opposition coming from Zheng Qinghong. So that's his first factional war. Now, the second factional war is more interesting because I never talked about it before, and I think it's time that we that I share that with you. It's the infighting within the Xi Jinping faction. So let me share with you the. Oh, here's the picture of the Chi Haotian. This was him. I mean that now he's 94 years old, but that was probably then. He retired 20 years ago. So let me now talk about the current Politburo Standing Committee. It's comprised of 7 people. The two men that I circled in red, Wang Huning and Zhao Leji, Wang Huning is believed to be, people call him the most dangerous man in the world because he is believed to be the biggest asset the Jiang and Zheng faction planted in Xi Jinping's inner circle. He somehow obtained Xi's trust and has patiently steered Xi Jinping to the left. So he's considered to be on the one of the Jiang Zemin's people, but I don't know if Xi Jinping sees it that way. And then Zhao Luji isn't a die-hard Jiang faction loyalist, but people think he doesn't belong to Xi's most trusted circle, which includes the other 4 men who I circled in green. They are Cai Qi, Li Qiang, Ding Xuexiang, and Li Xi. So this is really this is what, the highest ranking Xi Jinping faction officials, right? However, there are signs of great strife among them now. So let's talk about them one by one. Li Qiang is the premier who supposedly is the second highest ranking CCP official, but he's the weakest premier the CCP has had in its 74 years of government. So let's talk about his airplane. There's a whole story about his airplane. So in June, it was 3 months after he took office as the premier. He made his first foreign trip, and it was to Germany. Now, he flew on a chartered plane, unlike his predecessor, Li Keqiang, former premier Li Keqiang, who always flew on his own plane, or what we call dedicated plane. In Chinese, you have 专机, meaning his personal plane or dedicated plane, versus 包机, means chartered plane. So the CCP has this rule. Before the 18th Party Congress in 2012, all members of the Politburo Standing Committee committee traveled on quote-unquote special planes or dedicated planes. They're used exclusively by them. The plane is equipped with an office, communication equipment, and security facilities. And chartered planes are commercial plane that they lease from, they're a commercial plane, and they're used on a temporary basis. Um, However, after the 18th Party Congress, CCP changed the rule, and now the rule is that only the head of the party, the Secretary General of the party, and the Premier of the State Council shall take a special plane for their travels. So basically only Xi Jinping and Li Qiang are entitled to use their dedicated plane, and all other members of the Politburo Standing Committee should use chartered planes. So Li Qiang is entitled to fly on his own plane, but he didn't. And when he went to India to attend G20 in Xi Jinping's place, he also flew in a chartered plane. And so basically, he's not given the courtesy per CCP's own rule. And there have been a lot of discussions why. So there are two explanations. One is people say either Xi Jinping or Cai Qi, the guy who runs the CCP household for Xi Jinping, they don't let him fly his plane. That's one view. And the other view is that maybe Li Qiang, it's his own idea because he doesn't want to appear that he has the same privilege as his boss. He's very sensitive to Xi Jinping's need so he doesn't want to offend his leader, so he chose to fly a chartered plane. However, now we don't know what the explanation is. However, here's the awkward situation. China's foreign minister, Wang Yi. So also here's, I actually found the press release that talks, the news coverage that talks about, this is from Taiwan, Yahoo Taiwan, that talks about Li Qiang chose a chartered plane and abandoned his special plane. And this one says this one says it's his choice, just to show respect to Xi Jinping. Now, what's unusual is China's foreign minister has a special plane of his own use, and he used that fly everywhere. He used that to go to visit the Asian countries. He probably used that to fly to Russia. So that's very odd, right? People say, well, how come? Technically, the foreign minister works for the premier, because the foreign minister is a job title in the government, and the premier is the head of the government. So no matter what the explanation is, people say all of this means that Li Qiang, no matter what's behind the reason that he chose to fly in a charter plane, it means that his situation in the Politburo Standing Committee is very difficult, right? Everyone can tell the poor premier is struggling. I think the man is talented because he managed Shanghai pretty well during the early stages of the pandemic when Xi Jinping let him do what he wanted. And, Shanghai's economy was doing okay, and the cases were low. He did pretty well. And then when Xi Jinping told him to do zero COVID, and that's when, everything started to fall apart. So I think this man is tormented between having to do his job to save the economy and then having to follow his boss's order. And Xi Jinping is very sensitive because Xi Jinping does not get along with his premier. From the very beginning, he did not get along with Li Keqiang. Now Li Qiang is his own ally. It's his own choice. How much does he really trust the premier, or how much freedom does he give his premier is another. So basically people just comment on the poor premier is struggling and struggling, not knowing what to do in his position. So this airplane situation kind of highlights that struggle, no matter what the explanation is. Okay, the next person I want to talk about is this man, Ding Xuexiang. He's the youngest of the 7 members of the Politburo Standing Committee. According to past practice, the youngest member of the Standing Committee is often groomed as the leader's successor. I actually made a video in October last year, right after the party congress, and said that he is, based on how much trust Xi Jinping has or had in him, and the important role he played within the party and his young age and everything that we had seen by then, you know, I thought that he was the chosen successor of Xi Jinping without him saying it. But things obviously have changed starting 2023. So since this January, there have been rumors spreading about this man. First, it was the rumor that he committed suicide. Then the rumor said that he had resigned. Then in April, there has been rumors that his son, who's in the US, was collaborating with the CIA and FBI. And that was the reason for his resignation or suicide or whatever. Obviously, he he didn't resign or commit suicide. We know those rumors were not true, but like people said, something has happened, right? The rumors indicate that something went on, between the man and Xi Jinping. And also during that time, March and April, 5 important jobs that he did for Xi Jinping were passed on to Cai Qi. And those 5 jobs were director of the central office of the party, director of Xi Jinping's office, secretary of the working committee, of the central committee, of the CCP's central committee, secretary of the central secretariat, and the deputy director of the committee for comprehensively enforcing the economic reforms. So these are all very important positions that this man used to hold, but he passed on those positions to Cai Qi. And even as the executive vice premier, he missed some important meetings, economic meetings that should fall under his territory, and he missed those meetings. So people really question if his relation with Xi Jinping has soured in the past couple of months. All right, now let's talk about this man, Li Xi, the man on the right. He is the seventh. He ranked number 7 in the Politburo. Let me show you where's the picture. So here you have Xi Jinping in the center, ranking 2nd is Li Qiang, 3rd. And so he's on the far right. And so he's the last in the rank. But he does a very important job. He's the guy that heads Central Commission of Discipline Inspection. And so, this is the most important tool Xi Jinping uses to sack officials, right? However, in July of this year, something odd happened. There's something happened between these 2 men, Cai Qi and Li Xi, because the work committee of the central committee of the party, which Cai Qi is the secretary of, released a guideline related to the work of the Discipline Inspection Commission, which Li Xi is the head of, is responsible for. And so this is very unusual because the 7 Politburo Standing Committee members all have their own territory of responsibility, and they don't step on each other's toe. And so this is like Cai Qi is stepping on Li Xi's toe by telling him, this is how you do your job. And that's very, very unusual. So that having said all of that, that brings us one problem. That is, Cai Qi has gained so much power within CCP leadership. Here's the man sitting at the BRICS summit behind Xi Jinping, looking troubled or sad or nervous. There are a lot of interpretations on his expression. He has really, although he ranked number 5 in the Politburo, but he is the second most powerful man um, in within the party. He's in charge of party affairs, ideology, propaganda, party construction. He's in charge of security, um, security of other leaders. And Xi Jinping, in the past couple of months, have become overly reliant on him. And that certainly makes Li Qiang, Ding Xuexiang, and Li Xi, the other 3 guys in the Xi Jinping faction, very difficult to do their job. And this internal competition has created within the Xi Jinping faction. So the 3 other men in the faction may see that, well, Xi Jinping does not trust them anymore. And reciprocally, their loyalty to Xi Jinping may also have become conditional and limited. And so this has created a power struggle that Xi Jinping has to deal with within his own faction. And this is very common. This is very common in CCP power struggles. It's like once you get rid of all your enemies, you have your own people. And you assume that now you should be buddy, right? No. And then these people start to fight and divide amongst themselves. And so Cai Qi is now so powerful that he decides what events Xi Jinping can attend. So this man who sits behind him. So here, Yuan Hongbin, who you are familiar, I talked about him. He's a well-connected Chinese political commentator based outside China. So he said this is on September 13th, in an audio recording, he said that after the BRICS summit in South Africa, Cai Qi sent a notice to Foreign Ministry. As the head of the Central Secretariat, he advised the Foreign Ministry of 2 rules for Xi Jinping's future participation in international events. So the 2 rules are, number 1, he will not attend any international events in which he won't be playing a leading role. And rule number 2 is he won't attend any foreign events that promote that won't promote. Am I missing? Yeah, that don't promote him, that don't promote his status as a world leader. So this is the reason why Xi Jinping didn't attend G20, because he knew he would be sidelined, and India's prime minister will take the limelight. So what I'm saying is, this man Cai Qi has become so powerful, and that puts Xi Jinping in a situation where Xi Jinping has alienated almost everyone he trusts, except this Cai Qi guy, right? He alienated his other allies within the Xi Jinping faction. So he's solely dependent on this Cai Qi, and that can be very dangerous. So that's my second, that's the second item that I want to talk about. Now let's talk about the status quo within the PLA. So although these people, the Jin Qinghong faction and then the people within his own faction, may pose political threats to him, but they're not as threatening as the problems that he has within the PLA, because whoever controls the gun has real power, because CCP has a saying, the regime is born from the barrel of a gun or guns. So now let's talk about what's going on in the military. Before that, I want to tell you about this guy, and his name is Zhao Lanjian. He is a media personality who has been disclosing a lot of information about the PLA, such as the detainment of China's defense minister Li Shangfu, and also the detainment of some of the leaders, the heads of some of the leaders who are in charge of the defense industry. So who is he? Well, he's a reporter. He was a reporter, chief editor, and deputy general manager of several prominent Chinese media outlets in mainland China, and he is well connected with the princelings. Now, he became famous because he was one of the whistleblowers for the chained woman. Remember, it was in February during Chinese New Year, during the Winter Olympics. There was a very famous picture of a woman, a mother of 8, who was chained, who was suspected to be a missing girl from Sichuan. Remember that story? So this journalist, Mr. Zhao, was one of the whistleblowers for that chained woman incident in Xuzhou. And his interview videos and written reports, which presented concrete evidence contradicting the narratives promoted by the government. His reports and videos generated tens of millions of views. As a result, he faced interrogations and threats from Chinese local police. He managed to escape China. Initially, he went to Malaysia and then arrived in the United States. He's still in contact with his friends in China and has been posting new CCP developments on X or Twitter. Now, after his recent disclosure of information about the PLA, he said he has been harassed by unknown people. So he decided to get on a formal platform to talk about how he obtained the information about the PLA. So he accepted an interview yesterday with Newtown Dynasty TV. Well, he first talked about how he obtained the information, which I think is interesting, but I found his description of the status quo of PLA more fascinating. So I want to share that with you. So the first question he answered was, what's really going on with Xi Jinping's internal purge in the PLA? Is it corruption related or something else? And so here is his answer to that question. Let me
消息的朋友
Okay, hold on. Let me start from the very beginning.
昨天跟我就是给我消息的朋友做了一点联系，他说小赵你怎么这么笨呢？他说这样的事情怎么可能去抓几个人就已经到位了，他说不可能的。
对，
他说军队的这些事情呢，它是一个一个大的派系，是一个一个大的系统。那么就像一个贪污事件而言，所谓的反腐的贪污事件而言，它不可能是一个人的执行，一个人的任务，它是一个团队和团伙。
没错。
那像这次军方的肃整，它也是打着反腐的名义。那这个反腐的名义，我们之前所看到的消息，包括我释放的消息，它仅仅是一个开头，也仅仅是一个开始。未来它会深入进去，把这些派系的下面的枝枝脉脉的人马都会肃清到。
Okay, so that's scary. That means it's just the beginning. And, this internal purging within the PLA will extend further. That means more heads will roll. But that sets the perfect stage for a bigger storm because, the question now is, well, people know this is upcoming, but are the PLA officers willing to accept this kind of purging, right? So remember the post that I read at the beginning of this live stream? I read you a post that described that everyone is waiting, everyone is sensed that something is happening, but they don't know what it is and they don't talk about it. That kind of a collective sentiment in Chinese society. And Mr. Zhao further elaborate on, like he further elaborated on that. So let me play you the second video clip. Where is that? Okay, I think this one.
地方可以
Okay, hold on. Start from the beginning.
我们可以在美国这个地方可以畅所欲言的去交流，
对，
但是在中国它是不可以这么去交流的。但私下里，我的这些全部的朋友，无论是红二代，无论是企业家，还是媒体里的人士，是可以说100%对当今中国政治局面的走势、社会制度的方向是否定的。那我想在我的小圈子里、小群体里是这样的。放大一点，它可能就是一个社会整体的模板。那我认为在中国军方也会存在这样的一个统计学的模板的范畴。我们可以。
So he said he didn't say, he just said if in my circle of friends it's 100%, like everyone is against, the way China is going. He said that's, like it should be reflective of what's happening in the military as well, meaning 100%, right? I think he didn't say that directly. He's just saying it should be the same data sampling, like statistically, it should be the same. So therefore, he's saying that it should be 100%, meaning that all of the PLA officers are against, the direction that China is heading politically. Sorry. So now, what he described is however, is a very dreadful situation or dreadful reality that Xi Jinping and his Cai Qi would have to face, right? And that's just a very scary thought. So from his first two clips, the first clip talks about Xi Jinping's intention, the fact that the purging will continue and will go down further, deeper, and more heads will roll on a much larger scale. And then in the second clip, he described the collective sentiment in the Chinese society. And I think that really set the stage for his third clip, which is he was asked this question before he gave his answer. He said, the question was, what was the question? I'm sorry, I just kind of lost where I went. Oh, he was asked to describe what the people in the Chinese military services really think about the current situation in China. And this is what he said. That's clip number 3.
那在
Let's start from the beginning.
这个情况非常严重。我刚才所讲的，就是我在半年前，甚至在1年前，跟很多有关的朋友讨论过这个话题。那在军中，基层的军中它是非常麻木的状态。但是在中国军队的顶层，那些有着背景的红二代，或者是有着更高见识的那种军官，他们一定会看到中国现在的这种泥潭状态。
对，
整个都是一种瘫软的状态。就在中国的现有体制里面，无论这个体制有多恶劣，总会有一些蠢蠢欲动的正义人士，在期间要去做一些对生命、对历史有意义的事情。
那赵先生，您说这个有意义的事情，能不能给我们明说一下？
军中一直都是有很多人有谋反之意，一直在推动着整个派系的重新划分。那他可能狭隘一点，只是在共产党的这个执政纲领内部去做小范围的改良，或者是大范围的改良，这个 小范围、大范围是指是不是在共产党的框架下？那我听到了很多这样的声音，我也看到了很多这样的行动，因为我和有关的这些环节，已经有很多年的交情啊，有很多年的联系。
Okay. So, um, so let me come back. So the reason I chose Mr. Zhao's interview clips is, I mean, there are many people who disclose information about what's happening in inside China. The reason I played his clips is because one, he has a track record of being fearless to do investigative journalism in China. His work on the Chained Woman was certainly admirable. So he has that track record, and also he just came from China. I think he came last year. He came not too long ago. So he certainly is aware of the collective social sentiment in China, and so and because he had been living in China for so long, like he said, yeah, he's certainly well connected. So I think what he described gave us a very realistic picture of what's happening in China. So that's why I choose his clip. Now, going back to, in summary, Xi Jinping has 3 factional wars that he's fighting. With the Jin Qinghong faction, with his own people in his faction, and with the PLA. However, the PLA is the most threatening one. You can tell by his effort, right? Like I said, of the 22 high-ranking officials that have gone missing, the bulk of them, I think over 80% of them, are related to the defense industry or are in the PLA. So that shows you where his concerns are, and that shows you where the problems are, right? But when you put all 3 factions, when you put all of them together, I mean, it hasn't reached that point yet, but if all 3 factions come together, that can be deadly. So I want to last explain the 94-year-old general that Nikkei Asia mentioned that was brought to that meeting that the article mentioned. Now, he retired 20 years ago in 2003. His influence in the PLA is minimum because people under him are also gone. I mean, he retired 20 years ago. So the people under him either have been removed due to corruption or have retired. So he does not pose most threat to Xi Jinping. I mean, the article didn't say that. I mean, the way the article is written make people in the West think, oh, wow, you have this 94-year-old retired general who seems to be very influential that went to this meeting, sat next to Jin Qinghong, so he could maybe, not really poses some threat to Xi Jinping. No, that's not the case. The most threatening are the active duty officers. Those people are more capable of staging something against Xi Jinping. And those are the people that he fears, not this 94-year-old retired general. So don't be fooled by these Western media trying to tell you CCP politics. Sometimes they're just very, very tricky. So that's all for tonight. Hopefully this is helpful. What I'm saying, I think I've been reading too much CCP politics. Anyways, that's all for tonight. I hope it's helpful. Let me see if people have questions. Okay, I'll start with the super chats first. And oh my goodness, I get a headache after absorbing all these information. I'm glad I spit them out. Sir Humphrey, about to start work again. Enjoy the live stream and ask some good questions. Thank you, Lei. Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your support. All right, let me see. Let me just go through the super chats question really fast, and then if you have questions for me, put my name in front so I know it's addressed to me. Otherwise, there are a lot of discussions. Oh, here we have Boy China. Love to lay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think okay, that's all for now. So let me pick some questions from Drew H. Lay. I love your show. I always look forward to your talks. Oh, thank you, Drew. Mitsu, I have heard she has really dug into advice from Taoist priests and others to avoid superstition that would ruin him. Could you see a Rasputin scenario that would actually destroy him? Um, Anything is possible. Yes. He has been, he went to visit the Lingyin Temple in Hangzhou. Did you guys see the red carpet that rolled out for him? Lingyin Temple is this highly respected monastery built. I don't know when it was built, but the last emperor, the last head of state who visited the temple was Deng Xiaoping. I'm sorry. Okay, let me put it this way. This temple is known not to open its front door. When it was built, it only opens the front door to emperors, to the ruler. Other people enter from the side doors. And so the last time it opened the front door was Deng Xiaoping. And before Deng Xiaoping, I heard it was a Qin dynasty emperor, one of the most famous Qin dynasty emperor. So that just shows you how special this temple is. And Xi Jinping went there. Um, so he believes in that kind of stuff, and he absolutely believes in, he does the prophecies related to him definitely have an impact on him. I know Westerners don't always believe in prophecy. It doesn't matter whether you and I believe in that. What matters is he believes in that. And so therefore it becomes a political issue that we need to follow, right? What matters is Xi Jinping believes in prophecies, and then we need to get to the bottom of that. And it has nothing to do with whether you and I believe in that. So yeah, he has been seeking advices from Taoist priests or people with supernormal abilities. And I heard today that that long before he became the CCP leader, someone, probably a Taoist priest, told him that he would one day become a big shot, someone who's very important. So he has been preparing for that, or he had been preparing for that. He told his family members, his siblings, to stay low key, very low key, to stay out of trouble or scandals, so that he can be the leader. So he believes that. Yeah. Jeff Rammel, thank you. Aja, I bought a vacuum cleaner made in CCP controlled China today. It kind of sucks. Okay. Well, it's not working. If it's not working for you, return it. Well, but thank you for your generous donation. I appreciate that. From Paul Phelps, is there a possibility that the military region might declare independence from the CCP? I don't think how the military region can declare independence, because military cannot, they can't operate on their own as a separate state. I think if they have any ambition, they would want to, take over the regime, or start anew, start something on their own. But just create a subset, or just to create a territory for their own, they will easily be they will be wiped out. No, I think they will all compete to gain power at the very top, to gain control. But just trying to establish your own, but to become a warlord, and have your own territory is too dangerous. Okay. From click all night. How can any CCP leader be anti-Xi without being investigated and eliminated? I imagine in their hearts they all oppose Xi, but you describe some as being his rivals, and that surprised me. It would be obviously CCP politics is very complex, right? They are his rivals, but then they um, from a Western perspective, you would think, well, if two factions have been engaged in a life and death situation, then I'm going to remove all of you and get rid of all of you, and so I thrive. But they don't work like that in CCP politics. They fight, you know, they fight all the way to the end, and then they coexist. To some extent, they they enjoy that kind of fighting. Like I always say, if the world is at peace, CCP cannot exist. They thrive on conflicts and struggles. They strangle each other to death, but then the next moment when they have a party congress, they'll all sit on the podium as if they're comrades. But behind the scene, they just, try to kill each other. So that's the nature of CCP business. It's very difficult for the outside world to understand, but that's their mode of existence. David Lopan, are you familiar with a prominent Uyghur academic who is being jailed for life? Yes, she's a professor. She's being jailed to life. It's very sad. Um, let's see. Questions from EQV. Thank you for the donation. Just a note to say thank you, Lei. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you. I will. All right, let me see. Questions. More questions for me? From John Coe. Lei, you are nothing but a gossip? Well, CCP politics is based on gossips. You know what? If there's no gossip, then there's no way we can. I was actually thinking about that question. I was thinking about that if you follow mainstream media, I mean, even they're fed with gossip. Right? I mean, think about this Nikkei Asia article. I mean, someone released that information to them, but because they're mainstream media, then they seemed, credible. But if you really think about who is more trustworthy, so you have, people within the regime disclosing information, feeding information to media with the purpose of manipulating politics, right? And then you have people risking their life in China who speak out and who release or disclose information to people like Mr. Zhao, who fled China. And those information will always come out as rumors and gossips. But if you really look at the two channels of information, which one is more trustworthy? I would trust the people who risk their life and their well-being to disclose the information than some kind of CCP operative that sit in their office and call, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and say, hey, this is what's happening, with the intention to manipulate world media. So in this case, rumors are more trustworthy. So if you're not following Chinese rumors, then you're missing out. I'm sorry to say that, Mr. Zhang, whoever, Zhang Ko. All right. Let's see. Marvin Jacobs. Thank you. All right. Let me see. Zhang Ko, okay. I think your comments revealed more, tell us more about who you are than who I am. I think people people have a pretty good idea of who I am and what I do here. But your comments, show the whole world who you are very clearly. So I don't worry about your comments at all. All right, let's see. From let's say Dongder Lei, is there a chance Tibet, Inner Mongolia break apart from China if the economy continues to fail? Um, of course, there's always a chance, but I think those regions will have to weigh their alternatives. I think the bigger question to ask is who will be in place to replace CCP, right? If China does become democratic, a democratic nation, run by uh, a good government or politician with a good vision for China, I think those regions probably want to stay on. So it all depends on what would happen after CCP um, is gone, right? All right. So let's see. Nick Furry, Li Qiang has promised Malaysia PM that the China's new map is nothing to worry about and negotiable. What do you think? Um, I think the map, I like I said last time, the map, the controversial map was the result of some internal political struggle between various political factions. I don't really quite understand which faction it was that produced that map, but obviously it's highly debated even within the CCP's system. So uh, it might have been released to cause Xi Jinping embarrassment by his political enemy. That just tells you how much control he has internally. Okay, let me see. Stephen Cochrane, Lei, can China ever be free? Of course, it can. I'm very confident in that. Silas Larson, is it just me or is it the CCP darker and more cartel like than the party in the USSR? I know both were repressive, but the USSR actually seemed a touch idealistic in intent in the world. I think no communist regime that ever existed is as twisted and evil as this one that's running in China, that's ruling the Middle Kingdom. I have never seen. I mean, the USSR, I mean, Stalin was brutal. He killed a lot of people. Um, I think what makes CCP most evil is it turns black and white. It twisted people's psychology. It makes black white and makes white black. It completely changes people's value. It destroys the moral fabric that makes us human. So people don't know how to deal with each other. People don't know how to interact with each other. And so that's the only way you could thrive in that society is if you accept their value. And that's just very, very evil to me. All right, let me see. From Blind Man Running, your video and streams are great. I know you are on a budget, but voiceovers instead of subtitles would be good. Um, okay. I'm blind and cannot follow the Chinese language videos. Okay. Yeah, for my scripted videos, I talked to my editor that going forward we'll do voiceover for the scripted ones, but for live streams, it's a matter of production. Do you guys believe that I should do voiceover for this kind of videos during live stream? because it's a different, maybe it's easier, production-wise, is it easier if I have someone read over them? Let me know what you think. That's the thank you for your suggestion. Okay. Okay, from Brian Cobb. It was reported August 15 that the ROC government, facing a seventh monthly increase in youth unemployment, suspended releasing such statistics. Are any reported? You're talking about PRC, not ROC, because ROC is Taiwan. Republic of China is Taiwan. People's Republic of China, PRC, is the mainland. Are are any reported PRC economic statistics valid or even close to? No. I have made a couple of videos. Check my live stream back in, I think, July. I did a video on China's unemployment rate, and it's over 50%. The average national unemployment rate is 25%, and the urban unemployment rate is over 50%. And I calculated that based on official CCP statistics. So the reason they stopped publishing youth unemployment is because it's too high, and they can't. The numbers don't jive, because as when you massage data, I'm a financial analyst. I know that when you massage the data so much, it's eventually you're going to have numbers that don't tie, that don't make sense at all. So they just stop publishing the numbers altogether, and that's why. I also made a video on China's GDP, and it's severely overstated. Okay, let me see. Questions from Stray Lay. Talk. Your voice is fine. Your voice is fine. You mean my voice? I mean my voiceover is good. David Lopan, your presence is part of the charm. You're a real delight for such a heavy subject. Am I? Okay. All right. Okay, from Aja, maybe we could get wild subtitles. What do you mean by wild subtitles? I mean, if I do voiceover, if I do both subtitles and voiceover, that's double the production for me, because my editor will have to, do copy paste to add the subtitles, and then I also have to add voiceover. So if I could add voiceover, then maybe that could save me some time to do subtitles. Let me know what you think. A hope and a prayer. China, there are several areas that have Christians. Are there any word about how the Christian movement is surviving, faring? Thank you. It's very difficult because Xi Jinping does not believe in, he does not believe that Christianity has a place in China. He believes in a traditional Chinese faith, if he believes in any spirituality. So that's the reason why churches have been demolished in China. That's because the leader does not believe that Western religion has any place in China. So the situation for them is not good. Not good. Thank you. Thank you, Brian Cow. Thank you. All right, let me see. Poindexter Flex. The only circumstance in which you should change anything is if it makes it easier for you. Otherwise, your format is perfect for us. Okay, I'll find out if voiceover is easier. It might be easier. Okay, but thank you for the feedback. Ed C. I know second head of an official in Hainan who is being investigated for corruption. Are these investigations widespread now? The investigations are everywhere. I read news like, all these people are being investigated, I mean, based on the videos that you've seen, people be just arrested from left to right. It's just, yeah. China is going to become a giant prison. Xi Jinping is going to lock up almost everyone. So that's the reality. All right, Steve Mantle. Any chance of Li Keqiang, the people's president, making a return? Yes, that's a good question. I think some people want to make us believe that way. I doubt it. I don't think Li Keqiang has the tenacity. Is that the word? Tenacity and strength to fight the establishment or fight with Xi Jinping to play that role. He's a scholar. He's very smart, very a good person. But I don't think he has the fighting spirit to do the right thing. So that I think he's probably also a little tired from politics. From Paul S. Thank you. From FYT 54321 Lei, the comment about wild subtitles. Where did it go? Is the nonsense that appear on Chinese live stream and program where viewers' comments literally flood across the screen continuously. Oh, okay. I don't know how to do that, and I wouldn't want that because it's distracting, right? It's distracting. I like it to be more organized, although I really welcome people's different thoughts and ideas. Okay, from Junko. All right, he's not saying anything interesting. From Just Wondering, Lei, do every people in China live in fear of CCP? Obviously not, based on what the guy said, Mr. Zhao said in the video. There are a lot of people who are fearful, but there are also many who are not. Nick Furry, have you heard that rich Chinese are fleeing to U.S. southern border riding on donkeys? Well, I've heard rich Chinese are coming to the U.S. from in all direction. Northern border is also, our border with Canada is the least protected border, and they're coming through that border as well. Now, I'm actually making a video on that. It will come out next week. Stay tuned. It will be eye-opening. So southern border, northern border, in all direction. Okay. I'll take one last question. Is there any questions for me? I think is that the end? That seems to be the end. Oh, I did really well. Okay. That's all. I thank you for joining me. From Jack, you are the most outspoken person of Chinese descent I've ever seen. Are you scared? Why should I? I'm not attacking anyone. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just telling people what's happening in China. And I shouldn't be scared, right? I think this is this is the fear that the CCP wants to instill in us, that speaking truth comes with a price. And I refuse to accept that. I think there's standard that we need to follow in speaking truth. Speaking truth doesn't mean that you should say it in however way you want to. There are good standard to follow in speaking truth. That is, focus on the matter and not targeting people. So even though I think Xi Jinping has done a lot of terrible things, I don't attack him personally. I just don't think the decisions he made are very good. I think the regime has hurt a lot of people, but I do not make personal attack on anyone because I think it's not what I'm interested. I'm not interested in any individual. I'm interested in having some serious change, have a meaningful dialogue that can bring that can transpire into positive changes in China. And I think knowledge is power. So, and I hope because I noticed that in the West, in America, when people, when the left and the right, the conservative and the progressive talk, there are a lot of emotions involved, and that's not very productive. I think people should remove their emotions from their discussion. So as much as I dislike the CCP, I do not make personal attack, and I think it's because it's counterproductive. So as long as, and there should be kindness. And I personally really feel sorry for Xi Jinping. I don't understand why he wants to do that job. He should just end it. Just say, I don't want to do this. This system doesn't work. This ideology has failed us. Forget it. Let's start all over. That would be my suggestion to him. If you put me in front of Xi Jinping, I will say that to him. I said, please make the right decision. You have a mission. You give yourself a mission impossible. Just end this. This communist ideology does not work. You tried, it doesn't work. Stop it. End it. You can resign. You could run for president, but start a democratic China. That would be my advice to him. I'll still talk to him positively. So I think speaking truth has standard. And as long as we follow high standard in speaking truth and be kind to everyone, why should I be fearful? Right? So that's my answer to that question. Okay. Okay, alrighty. And someone's from Stray. Greetings from London. Wow, you're staying late for this show. Great show. Enjoy the gossip. All right. So on that note, I'll end it here. I guess more gossips to come. All right. Well, I thank you very much for joining me. I hope this is worth your time. And I'll see you next time. I'll see you next week. This starts my weekend. All right. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.